I am fascinated by the streaming industry. It seems to be taking off like a rocket ship, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny because it's been around for a while, and the one silver lining out of this horrible coronavirus cloud has been the streaming industry service. People were stuck at home, they couldn't get to the movies, and services like Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max filled the void for entertainment, and that was good for the public. They were able to enjoy their favorite movies and their favorite stars. Not so good for the theater owners because a lot of people have gotten used to seeing movies at home, particularly on an HD big screen.
Right. And comfortable.
Yes, comfortably. If you have to take a phone call or go to the bathroom, you just hit the pause button. Some movies are being released both in theaters and on streaming, and that's creating a little bit of a problem in terms of box office. The movie In the Heights just opened, and it didn't do very well at the theaters. And a lot of people are thinking because it also played on HBO Max, and people, for whatever reason, wanted to see this film at home as opposed to seeing it on a big screen, whereas something like, say, A Quiet Place Part 2, people wanted to be in the immersive atmosphere of the theater and look up at the big screen in the dark and get scared to death.
Worst part about streaming is when your Wi-Fi goes down for a little bit and it just recycles everything.
Well, that's the worst thing about being online is when anything goes down. I had that the other week. I lost internet connection for about 15 minutes. It was like, oh, my world just stopped. But it came back and everything picked up where we left off.
And now, how did you key in on Jesus Christ and the movies?
Well, I was interested. I was planning a few years ago to do a book about Pontius Pilate's wife. She doesn't have a name in the Bible. In fact, she's only in one of the four Gospels.
Pontius Pilate's wife? Didn't even know he had one. I guess he did.
She's popularly known as Claudia. And I was doing research into that, and I was sort of concerned whether I would be able to get anything going because most people know me as a film writer, not as a biblical scholar. So even if I completed the research, would this book get published? But in doing the research, I noticed there were a lot of films that included Claudia as a significant character, even though she's only in one sentence of the Gospel of Mark. And so I started taking a look into films about the adult Jesus, and that's where the new book came from, which is a study of how filmmakers depicted the life of Jesus, primarily the adult Jesus. There have been several films about the Nativity alone, which I didn't focus on. But because of Pilate's wife, in a roundabout way, I got to the main focus of the story.
Now, isn't it, I guess, the case where Hollywood basically is doing movies of Jesus based on the Bible?
Yes and no. The problem is that you have to go all the way back to the beginning of movies. There have been more movies about Jesus than any other historic figure. We go back to 1897. Some of the first movies ever shot were about Jesus, and even today, some of the more recent movies being produced are also about Jesus. And there only have been two films which are actual word-for-word adaptations of the Gospels, or actually, in their case, a specific Gospel. There was the Italian Gospel according to St. Matthew, which is entirely based on that single Gospel, and a Canadian film from 2003 called The Gospel of John, also based on that Gospel. But otherwise, filmmakers have sort of conflated all four of the Gospels, and they've used the New Testament as something of a buffet. They pick the stories they like, they don't pick the stories they don't like, they mix it up. Sometimes they even throw in new characters who weren't in the Gospels, but they figured, hey, this would help push the story along and maybe get a big star into the cast. So it's very, very rare to find an exact adaptation of the life of Jesus.
Do Jesus movies do well at the box office?
Oh, yes. That's why they've been making them since 1897. In fact, one of the first American films to become a cultural sensation was in 1898. It was called The Passion Play of Oberammergau. And it was also notable because it's one of the great hoaxes of the late 19th century, because the film was promoted as being shot at the celebrated Passion Play in Oberammergau, Germany, when in fact the movie was made on a rooftop in Manhattan with painted backgrounds. And even back then, in 1898, the somewhat unsophisticated audiences that saw this realized that they were watching a hoax.
Interesting. Now, Thomas Edison tried to block the release of a film, didn't he?
He did. That was the one. Apparently, Edison had a movie projector, and he tried to have a monopoly on the infant movie industry by saying he owned the rights to the projector. There was another man who came in, created his own projector, and he was part of this project, the Passion Play of Oberammergau. And when that film started to make a lot of money and started to get sold to theaters around the country, Edison went to court saying that this was patent infringement. Actually, Edison didn't really have a case because it wasn't patent infringement. This second projector was a proprietary machine, but for whatever reason, the court sided with Edison, and Edison got the rights to this film and seized it. So this film doesn't really exist today except for a few seconds of film, because Edison was able to stop its release and gain control of the film, and over the years, his heirs, however they did this, they wound up losing the film, so it's a mostly lost film.
How did Hollywood portray Judas?
Oh my goodness, it's been all over the place. You have to go back even to 1913 and 1911, and the first filmmakers to consider Judas as a standalone character was actually in Italy, and there was a movie in 1913 which tried to explain that Judas's actions were the result of a love triangle between his sister Judith, who was not in the Bible, but they made her up, and she was having an affair at the same time between Barabbas and Caiaphas, and it didn't end very well, but somehow or other Judas got sucked into it. And there was another film from Italy where Judas was sort of hypnotized by this wild woman named Priscilla, who's also not in the Bible. So the earliest versions of Judas tried to say that he was sort of a patsy for love and wound up betraying Jesus because of that, which is a very interesting adaptation of theology. But as time went by, Judas has been really seen more as a sympathetic character. He's been seen as an ally of Barabbas, which is not biblically accurate, and that he wanted to have more of a military liberation of the Holy Land as opposed to a spiritual one, which is why he betrayed Jesus. The character of Judas is also notable for breaking barriers in casting. The 1973 film Jesus Christ Superstar had Carl Anderson, who was a black singer-actor, as Judas, and this was the first time that a non-white performer played a major role in a Bible movie.
There was also stories that Jesus and Judas set this up on purpose because he needed Judas to do what he did, and that was turn him in.
Well, that's the way some people look at it. There was a movie called The Passover Plot from 1976, which gave the impression that this whole thing with the crucifixion was a hoax that Jesus perpetrated, and he was supposed to survive the crucifixion through the use of analgesic drugs, but it went wrong because the Roman centurion put the spear into his side and effectively killed him. Some people look at it that way. It's a fanciful way of looking at it. Most film adaptations don't really see Jesus as being that kind of a schemer.
What would you say is the best Jesus film you know of?
My God, I mean, watching so many of these films for the creation of the book, I don't know if there's a best per se, because so many people make so many films. Some of these films are beloved, others are not. A personal favorite of mine, there would actually be two. One of them is The Greatest Story Ever Told, from 1965 with Max Messiah was Jesus, and that was directed by George Stevens. That turns up a lot on television.
That's an old classic.
And Johnny Cash made a movie that a lot of people may not be familiar with called The Gospel Road, which was shot in Israel. It's more of a film essay than a film. Cash is on screen a lot holding a Bible, reading from the text.
Like a documentary almost?
Almost. It's a quasi-documentary, but they have actors reenacting the story of Jesus. June Carter Cash is in the film as Mary Magdalene, which is kind of interesting, but she gets to sing the song Follow Me, which is the most famous song from the soundtrack. It's a classic country gospel soundtrack. You don't usually get that in Bible movies, but it's Johnny Cash music, so you can't say no to that.
Who was D.W. Griffith?
D.W. Griffith is one of the most prominent and influential filmmakers who had Jesus in two of his movies. One of the films is one of the most infamous movies, The Birth of a Nation, which I'm sure your listeners are more than aware of. But people may not remember, at the very end of the movie, Griffith depicts what paradise could look like, and there's Jesus in his white robe in an all-white paradise, and that sort of added insult to injury, considering what the content of that racist epic was like. In the next film that he made was Intolerance. There were 4 historic stories of man's inhumanity to man, and one of the stories was the story of Jesus. And strangely enough, that was had the least amount of running time during the 3-hour Intolerance. One reason why Jesus did not get as much screen time as the other historic stories was because members of B'nai B'rith got wind of what Griffith was up to, and they were concerned that they were going to show Jesus as being condemned to death by his fellow Jews in ancient Judea, and they didn't want to create an anti-Semitic impression. So Griffith cut out the Sanhedrin, but in the same time he also cut out Pilate. So we see Jesus on the way to Calvary, but we don't really know who condemned him or why he's being crucified.
I'm trying to think of the movie that had Jesus next to Barabbas, and everybody chose Barabbas to live.
Well, that was a very famous movie from 1962.
I'm losing you off the phone.
I'm sorry?
There you go. I was losing
Barabbas. That was the 1962 film with Anthony Quinn, and that was it was an interesting film because the crucifixion was actually shot during a live eclipse. There was no special effects, so it's a visually striking scene. But yes, that was that film imagined what Barabbas' life was like after he was set free by Pilate. Again, one of the more infuriating aspects of the gospel is that it doesn't really go into a great deal of depth and backstories and postscripts regarding the character, so we don't know really who Barabbas was or what happened to him.
He felt guilty in that movie, didn't he?
Oh, it was 2.5 hours of guilt, yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Quinn suffered mightily for us, but it was a wonderful movie, and that turns up on television occasionally, so if your listeners have never seen it, check it out. That's actually one of the most intelligent biblical epics ever made.
Would you say that today's depiction of Jesus is pretty accurate, biblically speaking?
It's hard to say because I found that depictions of Jesus have been a reflection of the time when films were made. Today, a lot of the Jesus films, they have Jesus sort of as a bro or a dude, somebody you'd like to hang out with and have a beer with, somebody who's not really, he doesn't come across as very, very solemn or very spiritual.
A bud.
A bud, yeah. I'm thinking of a movie like The Shack, for example, where Jesus is wearing a plaid shirt and jeans, and he has Sam Worthington. He's more of a spiritual guru to him, and they wind up having a foot race across the lake. It's entertaining, but it may not be the Jesus a lot of people grew up with.
Now, there's a musical called Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, in 1973, there were 3 musicals about Jesus. There was that one, there was Godspell, and there was Johnny Cash's film, The Gospel Road. Jesus Christ Superstar was based on a musical that was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. It was first in London, then in Broadway. Then it's been on the big screen, and there have been 2 made-for-television adaptations for it as well. Wonderful music, a bit on the flippant side in terms of the lyrics, a lot of colloquial language in terms of how Jesus and Judas and the others of the story interact. A lot of people like the film, a lot of people like the music. Ted Neely played Jesus. That was his only leading role in a film. He was a rock singer at the time and wasn't known when he was cast and never really is known for anything else besides that movie.
Didn't Mel Gibson finance The Passion of the Christ?
Yes, he did.
On his own.
He did that because no studio wanted to do it. They felt at the time when he made the film, which was around 2003, 2004, that the subject had become passé and audiences wouldn't come out for it. And of course, Mel proved otherwise. The film was very heavily promoted, and there was a lot of controversy around its contents, which certainly helped draw attention to it. But in many ways, it was the best thing for the genre because it showed that people were willing to still pay money to go to the theater to see a movie about Jesus.
Did he make money on that movie?
A lot of money. It's one of the most successful independently produced films of all time.
Really?
Yes.
That's fantastic. What made him come up with this?
Well, Mel, from what I understand, always was a deeply religious individual. He belongs to a specific sect of Catholicism. They have their own distinctive interpretation of the Bible, and he felt this was his spiritual duty to make a film about Jesus. and he was in a position financially and artistically where he was able to pursue the project.
Where do we get your book, Jesus Christ Movie Star? It's in paperback and hardcover, isn't it?
You could get it on Amazon, any of the e-commerce sites, or through my publisher, bearmanamedia.com.
All right, Phil, stay with us. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the film industry. And, of course, next hour we'll take phone calls. Don't forget to subscribe to our free YouTube channel. It's free. Just go to youtube.com, and in the search bar, type in Coast to Coast AM Official and sign up for that. Same with TikTok.
Never miss a detail on a show or a guest. Sign up for the Coast Zone email newsletter, available for free at coasttocoastam.com. From the KFI 24-hour newsroom. With temperatures soaring in the Southland, a Flex Alert is scheduled for today from 5 to 10 p.m. The Flex Alert is a call for you to voluntarily cut your power use to reduce overall demand and lower the risk of outages. The Kawhi Leonard-less Clippers beat Utah 119-111 last night in Game 5 of their playoff series. LA picks up a pivotal 3-2 series lead and can close things out Friday night at Staples Center. The infamous Los Feliz home, where in 1969 Charles Manson's followers murdered Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, has been sold. The $1.8 million sales price is about $400,000 less than the asking price. Southland weather from KFI. It's going to be sunny and hot again today, near 100 in most of the valley areas. 90 or so in LA and OC metros. Beaches about mid-70s, couple degrees cooler tomorrow. Right now in La Palma it's 64, Laguna Hills 62, Downey 61, and in Van Nuys 70 degrees. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Phil Hewlett.
Making your way through Irwindale, westbound 210 right at the 605, wrecked with the truck on its side. Crews of the 2 right lanes shut down, as well as the connector to the 605 south. Pretty bunched up here coming away from Vernon. Roadwork slowing things down to West Covina. Cones are down eastbound 10 from Puente to Azusa. Carpool in 3 left lanes coned off. Could go as late as 6. It is Riverside. We're in the break 91 west before Adams. We're going to clear a wreck with an overturned car out of lanes. Seeing a bunch up now from Arlington. KFI and this guy helps get you there faster. I'm Ryan Duggan.
Replacing your windows and doors doesn't have to be stressful. Instead, it can be transformational. Turning your home into a space that inspires you to live healthier, happier, more comfortable. Seamlessly blending indoors and out to help you feel connected to nature. Marvin Windows and Doors can make the difference. They're thoughtfully designed for the way you live, with an inspiring range of options that let you create the look you want, and lasting quality you can feel great about. When you work with a local independent Marvin dealer, you'll get straight advice about window and door replacement. Marvin specialists will help you plan your project and select the right products for your needs. They'll give you a detailed proposal so you know exactly what you're getting, and make the whole process easier. If you're ready to transform how your home feels with windows and doors you feel great about, schedule your free consultation at replacementmadeeasy.com. That's replacementmadeeasy.com.
Hi, this is Larry Miller from Sit and Sleep. You know, there's a lot that's new at Sit and Sleep.
Yeah, like me. Hi, I'm Drew Miller, Larry's son, and I'm proud to be the 3rd generation of the Miller family to work at Sit and Sleep.
Only Sit and Sleep has Bed Match that scientifically recommends the right mattress for you.
Plus, you can shop the way you want, in-store, online, or a combination of the two.
And we'll beat anyone's advertised price or your mattress is free!
You still got the pipes, Dad.
Thanks, son.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions. and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
And AMCO offers payment plan options for almost any credit situation. So it's easier than ever to fix it fast and pay it off slow. That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
KFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk.
Why don't people listen to us? The listeners listen to us. Just listen to us. Follow our lead. We know what we're talking about.
John and Ken, weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
That's what I'm saying. He's a dilettante. Like dilettante's a good word. Now they know it. I don't have to spell the fancy words I use.
John and Ken, weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
Baby, I'm yours, and I'll be yours until the stars fall from the sky. Yours until the rivers are run dry. In other words, until I die. Baby, I'm yours, and I'll be yours until the sun no longer shines. Yours until the forests run out of rhyme. In other words, until the end of time. I'm gonna stay right here by your side. Do my best to keep you satisfied. Nothing in the world can drive me away. 'Cause every day you hear me say, baby, I'm yours, and I'll be yours until I'm too high to sleep. Yours until the plastic crumbles to the sea. In other words, until eternity, baby, I'm yours.
From somewhere out there, this is Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie.
We're going to take calls with our special guest, Phil Hall, next hour here on Coast to Coast. We'll talk about Hollywood and his Jesus Christ movie star book as well. ParanormalDate.com cruising along. 305 people shy now. Over 112,000 signed up members. Free to sign up. Give it a try at ParanormalDate.com.
And guess what? If you like that senior crowd, you can head over to ParanormalDate.com/seniors and meet those like-minded people that are 60 plus. Like-minded seniors, they're at your fingertips. Really just depends what you prefer. ParanormalDate.com, now that's great for everyone. Or you can also tap into 60 plus members at ParanormalDate.com/seniors.
And if you're looking for ways to preserve youth, here you go.
Be you, be flawless with Instantly Ageless. Instantly Ageless is a velvety microcream applied lightly with results in just minutes. Instantly Ageless immediately tightens and smooths the skin's appearance, effectively reducing the look of under-eye bags, eyebrows, crow's feet, hooded eyes, forehead wrinkles, and facial pores in women and men. Here's a clip from Rachel Ray.
Board-certified dermatologist Dr. Whitney Bowe. If you're looking to try to trim back the cloth on a budget, in the privacy of your own home, but actually there's some recent technologies emerging, almost like changes the behavior of the skin while it sits on the skin. So we're going to try a product here. It's more accessible, ageless. We'll go backstage, we'll test it out. It's a cream. You literally just put it on, so we'll put on a really thin layer, and we're going to see if it sort of lifts up the cream.
And then she went off to try a product called Instantly Ageless.
Yeah.
Instantly, you could see a difference. Even the cameraman were like, wow, look at the difference.
Yeah.
But I would definitely use this product.
This product, within minutes of applying it, it was actually a very dramatic rejuvenation.
Try Instantly Ageless today and see results in minutes. Order authentic Instantly Ageless at healthylooking.com. Not available in stores. We now offer free shipping with smart delivery. Just use discount code GEORGE. If you would like to sample Instantly Ageless, order our hassle-free starter kit with free shipping for only $19.99. Instantly Ageless at healthylooking.com. That's healthylooking.com. or 24/7 at 800-604-3129. 800-604-3129. Instantly ageless from healthylooking.com.
We have a great story from someone who's helped themselves to heal by using the botanical known as carnivora. And we have a guest right now. Her name is Joni Nichols. This is quite a story.
Yes, it is. And Robert, my adventure started about 7 years ago. I was a mess. I had numerous infections. My hair was falling out all over the furniture. One of the scariest things was that my legs were swelling up out of control. It came to a head. Within 24 hours, I had gone into a coma.
Holy tamale.
Mom and Dad decided to get me carnivore's 6-week program.
At what point that you started this series did you notice, hey, something might be getting better?
Within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, Robert. The first thing I noticed was that I felt better waking up. Then I noticed that my hair wasn't all over the furniture. I'm like excited.
It's like you said that within about 6 weeks, your legs were no longer swelling?
Within 2 weeks.
And she credits all of it to her carnivora protocol, the B program, where she's using the carnivora extract, the lymph drainage product. And I endorse it. I utilize it. My wife is using it with great success. This has been such a rapid recovery that I guess we had to do it. Joni, thanks for being with us. I'd love to hear from you again.
Great.
Hello, people. George here. Carnivora is at it again. Just listen to that. Call 1-866-836-8735. That's 1-866-836-8735 or visit carnivora.com. CARNIVORA. That's carnivora.com. Call them, please.
Here's country music superstar Brad Paisley for Publishers Clearinghouse.
I'm helping Publishers Clearinghouse change people's lives, and you could be next.
There are just days left to enter to win $1,000 a day for life from Publishers Clearinghouse on June 30th.
Real people just like you really do win.
Don't miss your last chance to win. Enter before it's too late at PCH.com.
Can you imagine? You've got to be in it to win it.
Win $1,000 a day for life. Enter now at PCH.com. Entries due 6/24. No purchase necessary. Void or prohibited.
And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Phil Hall with us. His latest book is called Jesus Christ Movie Star. Phil, when was the last movie made about Jesus?
Well, there actually hasn't been a last movie made. Films are still being made on the subject. Terrence Malick has been making a film about Jesus. It's currently in production. It was originally called The Last Planet. It was then retitled The Way of the Wind. It may get another title knowing Terrence Malick, but it's supposed to be coming out either at the end of this year or in 2022. And I know there are a couple of documentaries on the subject that are being made. So this is the one subject that actually doesn't have an end. Those of us who go to church, there's the expression world without end, amen.
Yeah.
This is it. This is a world without end. There's always going to be a film about Jesus.
Has the Vatican ever financed or supported something like this?
No, strangely enough, the Vatican does not have a film studio. For whatever reason, they've never made their own film. They've been supportive of a lot of films. They've condemned several films that have come out they've considered blasphemous. But no, that's the one organization that's never been in filmmaking.
You would expect them to.
Well, there have been Catholic film production companies that make films in adherence to the Roman Catholic tradition, but not the Vatican itself.
What's happening with Hollywood today? Not the theaters, but the productions themselves.
Well, films are still being made. The pandemic slowed things down a bit, but it didn't stop it. Now that people are coming back to work, there have been a lot of announcements of new projects that are being made. Outside of this, I write for a financial website called Benzinga, and I did an article about a planned remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's going to be a prequel about what made Willy Wonka what he was, and they signed Timothy Chalamet to play the young Willy Wonka. So films are still being made, or in this case, being remade.
They'll never replace Gene Wilder, though. He was a classic, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, that's the problem with remakes and reboots, because why are you remaking a classic? It'll never hold up to the original. The filmmaker John Waters once remarked, why don't they remake the bad films, the ones that didn't work? Why are you remaking the good films? Because nobody wants to see another version of a classic. If a film was a flop, then give it a second chance, and maybe they'll get it right the next go-round.
Isn't that where the song "The Candyman" came from?
Oh, yes. That was from the original Willy Wonka. Sammy Davis wanted to be in the movie, but they felt he was too familiar of a figure to play the role of the candy retailer who sings the song in the film, but he got the hit song of it, and that was actually his only top 10 tune.
By the way, he hated the song until he saw what it did in the sales.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't blame him because he
I'm losing you again.
profound music, and this was a bit of a light pop ditty that wasn't really his style, but he made it his own, and actually it came out about 49 years ago around this time. It came out in June of 1972.
Even though Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was supposed to be somewhat of a fun little kids thing, he had a dark side in that film, didn't he?
Willy Wonka, yes. And that's why the film is so popular, because it's not a saccharine, pardon the expression, film. It's a profound film about greed, about emotions, about people not being who they claim to be. It was a kid's film for the early 1970s. I don't think a film like that could really be made today. I think today would be more of a cut and dry type of film, but this is a very complex work. It deviated somewhat from the Roald Dahl novel upon which it was based, but it was sort of a grown-up film for kids.
I ran into Kiefer Sutherland a couple of weeks ago, and what a nice guy.
I never had a chance to meet him. What I've heard of him, he's supposed to be a lovely person. In what context did you meet him?
He was just at a little restaurant that I was at, and he came up by me and stopped and then knuckle-fisted me, and I popped him back and said, "You look great." He said, "When you want to get me on your show?" And I said, "I'll have Tom work on it, and we'll see what happens."
I love stories like that, because I've worked in the entertainment media for many years, and I've got to meet many big stars. And I've always been impressed how the majority of them have been such nice people. And people like to imagine that Hollywood stars are all ego and all horrible. No, they're not. The vast majority of them are just like you and me. They're wonderful people to speak with.
Pat Boone is just a gem.
Oh, yes. Well, that's why he's been in the business for so long.
Do you know the name Robert Davi?
Yes, he's a wonderful character.
Yeah, good actor, good friend of ours, too. Same thing. And he also sings Sinatra.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you see, that's the thing with showbiz. If you get a bad reputation, it spreads, and people don't want to work with you. I had a friend of mine some years ago who made a small independent film, and one of the supporting parts was played by a woman. I don't want to name her on this show. There's no sense shaming her. But at one point, she was considered to be the next big thing, and here she was in this small role in this small film, and I was like, well, what is she? How did you get her? I haven't seen her in ages, and my friend said it was her reputation. She had a very poor reputation in the industry, and people didn't want to work with her. So he got her cheap for this role. I think it took 1 or 2 days to film.
What did you think of Martin Scorsese's work? I think he's a genius.
Martin Scorsese is a genius when he's making certain types of films. The Last Temptation of Christ, for me, didn't work because, well, to his credit, Scorsese stated this is not a Bible film. It's based on a novel, and it's a very distinctive interpretation of what could have happened. I don't think it works because it to me, it played like mean streets in ancient Judea. When the film started, and you have Harvey Keitel slapping around Willem Dafoe, it's like, no, this is not a Bible film. This is something different. I couldn't warm to the movie at all. A lot of people were offended by the film. I think in retrospect, they might have been confused because they thought that Scorsese was doing a Bible film, and The Last Temptation of Christ really is not an adaptation of any of the Gospels. It was based on a very controversial novel that had come out a few decades earlier. It just wasn't, for me, I think it was one of the least successful Jesus films of all time.
Did you see Scorsese's The Irishman?
No, I didn't get to see it. I don't have Netflix, so
okay.
I didn't... and of course, I think it was playing in 1 or 2 theaters in New York very briefly. I wasn't able to get to it.
It's 3 hours and 20 minutes long.
Yeah, that's...
way too long.
Way too long, and I'll be frank, I'm not a big fan of Scorsese's films. There are a few of them I do like. I like The Aviator. I like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, which I think are his least characteristic films, but For me, his work just doesn't work, which is odd because I'm from New York City, and you'd think, well, he's speaking my language, but he really isn't.
Who would you say is one of the best directors of all time?
All time? Well, I mean, if you're looking for the whole world, Akira Kurosawa from Japan. If you're looking at the United States, my personal favorite would be Orson Welles. I could watch his films over and over and never get bored of them. I'll throw out a name that a lot of people may not recognize the name, but they'll know his work, and that's Roy William Neill. And he directed those wonderful Sherlock Holmes films from the 1940s with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. And he made about, I think, 8 or 10 of them, and those films are wonderfully made. He really doesn't get the credit that he deserves. A lot of people, when they think of Sherlock Holmes, they think of Basil Rathbone, but they don't think of the director who had these wonderful, atmospheric, moody, somewhat creepy films, and they were always very well paced. And as with Orson Welles films, you could watch them over and over and never get bored.
Who directed The Greatest Story?
Greatest Story Ever Told was George Stevens, and that was a labor of love, emphasis on both labor and love. He had started working on that film in the late 50s, and was supposed to do it for 20th Century Fox, and he wound up doing so much research. He actually went to the Vatican to meet John the 23rd, and he flew to Israel to meet David Ben-Gurion, and he commissioned paintings that he would use as a storyboard. I think he spent somewhere of $3 million without shooting any footage, and 20th Century Fox said, no, you can't continue. They dropped the project. United Artists picked it up. But George Stevens was a perfectionist, and he would do take after take and do multiple camera setups. So a scene that a regular director would probably be able to capture in the course of 2 hours, it would take Stevens a full day or maybe 2 days to do. And The Great Story Ever Told went way over budget because the shooting schedule went on so long. And there's actually, in my book, Jesus Christ Movie Star, there's a little bit of an anecdote because the project went on such a long pace and it was such an epic film. Sal Mineo was in the movie. He had a small role as a crippled man who was healed by Jesus. And he was sitting in his trailer for most of the production, waiting to be called. And then after several weeks, he went up to Stevens and said, when is my next scene? And Stevens said, what are you still doing here? You're supposed to be done. And he was on the payroll all that time, waiting for that. Nobody remembered that he was still there, and he made a lot of money for doing nothing.
What did you think of the director Cecil B. DeMille?
Oh, DeMille is old school Hollywood.
Way back.
Well, he is Hollywood. He actually created
He
Hollywood.
died in 1959.
Yes, but it's because of him we have Hollywood, because he made a movie called The Squaw Man in 1940.
And The Ten Commandments.
Yep. But The Squaw Man was the first film shot in Hollywood, because movies had been made on the East Coast at that time. And he wanted to work at a place where he wasn't held hostage by the weather. So he went to California, and they set up shop in Hollywood. But he made one Jesus film called King of Kings, and that is a testament to his virtues and his vices. It's a visually stunning film. It's entertaining. But a lot of the film is really very corny, and it plays very loose with the biblical story. Mary Magdalene is this somewhat of a socialite who has a chariot that's being pulled by zebras, and Judas is her boyfriend, and this is just a way to start the movie, but that's how it is. And there's one thing it's funny, and it really shouldn't be funny. On the road to Calvary, Jesus is carrying the cross and is unable to go further because of his weakened condition. William Boyd, who people may remember as playing Hopalong Cassidy, he was early in his career. He played Simon Cyrene. And he comes out of the crowd to lift the cross. And William Boyd was a rather athletically built man. And he takes the cross and he tries to lift it, and he realizes he can't lift it. It weighs incredible.
In the movie,
In the movie. And he looks at the weakened Jesus, he's wondering, how in the world could this poor, tortured, weak man lift this heavy cross? And the way that DeMille shot it's funny. You laugh when you realize that this big, strong guy can't lift the cross, and weak Jesus can, but the road to Calvary isn't supposed to be funny, and so it throws the film off kilter, and that's the problem with DeMille. He had the right intentions, but he always somehow wound up making a bit of a goof of what he was doing.
Generally, movies are made for what demographic?
Well, movies traditionally have been made for all demographics because prior to television, that was the main staple of entertainment. It really wasn't until maybe the last 25, 30 years that movies were being aimed primarily at the youthful demographic,